Happening right now, Russian President Vladimir Putin's meeting with Kim Jong-un, and earlier today, the North Korean leader hosted Putin for a lavish welcome ceremony with portraits of both leaders strewn atop surrounding buildings throughout the nearby streets. Think Washington, D.C. in 2025 if Donald Trump wins.
Ah, yes. Nuggets of wisdom from MSDNC. They pay them a lot of money to do that. It's the Democrat Party. The capitalist will sell you the rope with which to hang them. Quite extraordinary indeed. And today is Mailbag Day. And I have Michael Piercy has selected 3 mailbag questions for me to address on this day, Wednesday, Mailbag Day. And, of course, Hump Day in the Clinton household. Hillary Clinton waking up face down in a pool of her own dried vomit next to an empty 1-gallon cardboard box of cheap New Zealand Chardonnay. Secret Service standing over her, tisking. I got to tell you, that story, I talked about it yesterday, the Secret Service agent being robbed in Los Angeles at gunpoint. He's a federal agent with a pistol and training and law enforcement authorities, and robbed at gunpoint by a criminal or criminals, depending on which version of the news reporting you want to pay attention to. That's extraordinary stuff. Now, the Secret Service agent, whose name has not been released, understandably, will always be known as the guy that was robbed after the Biden-Obama event, and Jack Black, of course, in Los Angeles, California. That's just tough. I got to tell you, I feel for the guy, probably taken by surprise. And the people, get the drop on you. They've got guns. And what are you going to do? But that's a tough one, isn't it? That is a tough one. I've got Hanoi Jane Fonda coming up for us. She's a communist, a multimillionaire American communist because, they don't believe in communism for themselves. It's always been the case. The commies that run the show have always lived the lives of rich people, and here they've broadened that out a bit. But I got some Hanoi Jane for you, and we got more than that too. It's not just Hanoi Jane. We got some Manderson Pooper. We got some of this and some of that. Now, perhaps I'll get to the mailbag now because then I'll get to it on Wednesday instead of botching that again, which I have done in the past, for which I'm deeply sorry. Now, let's go to Michael, and we get a lot of mailbag questions, and Michael has selected 3. And Connor Owens starts us off today. You said your mother values truth above just about any other personal quality. You also said she leaned to the left a bit politically. How do you think she would navigate the current political narrative from the left? That is a fun question, and I like that question. I've given it thought over time, and my mother was a good she died in 2001, just a couple of months before September 11th, before the September 11th attacks of 2001. And she was a Democrat voter. She was a John F. Kennedy Democrat and Irish Catholic woman. Her father, Patrick Henry Barnes, from Sharon, Pennsylvania, World War I veteran. He started his career in broadcasting in the radio business in 1924, my grandfather, 100 years ago this year. My family has been on the air nonstop for 100 years. And my mother was also on the radio starting when she was 7 years old in New York City on her father's radio broadcasts. And my grandfather, my mother's father, turns out was a great conservative, and I didn't know this growing up, a great conservative and a very active conservative and very actively anti-communist in the 1950s. And he was a radio broadcaster and a television broadcaster from 1924 until 1969. But back to my mother. And my mother was also, and I have one recording of her when she was, I believe, 8 years old, doing a radio broadcast from New York City with her father, and on Christmas Day, from a big famous theater in New York City. But never mind that right now. You said your mother valued truth, and it's true. She would, and I remember she caught me when I was a little kid. I was in grammar school, and she challenged me. I had done something wrong, and she challenged me, and I told an untruth. And my mother sat me down, and I was probably 8 years old, and she gave me a little bit of a talking to, and it was a measured, not yelling, but pointed, serious talking to about telling the truth. And I think I can say I'd never lied to her again, never told her an untruth again from the time I was 8 years old. And truth, it's true, she was very big on the truth. And she made that abundantly clear. And it really worked with me, I can tell you that much. And at least with some of my brothers, it worked as well. You also said she leaned to the left a bit politically. She was a Democrat when John F. Kennedy Democrats were pro-American, anti-communist, pro-tax cuts. John F. Kennedy was a big tax cutter, and so on. And my mother, I don't think, would recognize the Democrat Party of today. She wouldn't recognize the values. She would recognize them to be un-American and anti-American. I honestly believe this. She was a smart woman of thinking. Well, she wasn't a very political person, because most people weren't back then. We're much more political society and culture today than we were then. But I think she would have to say, I'm not with that party anymore. And I think she would have said that a long time ago, quite honestly. Maybe going back to Bill Clinton, I think that she would have said, I don't think so. I don't think this is for me. John F. Kennedy Democrats are nowhere to be found. John F. Kennedy would be to the right of Mitt Romney today, for sure. And maybe substantially to the right of Mitt Romney. And Bobby Kennedy was the same way. He would be way to the right of Mitt Romney and a lot of others. So my mother, as a Kennedy Democrat, John F. Kennedy would be kicked out of the Democratic Party. He would have nothing to do. He would say, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. And I believe that my mother would say the same thing. That's what I believe. And how do you think she'd navigate the current political narrative from the left? Yeah, I think she'd leave it. I think she'd walk away. I honestly do. Not just because I love her and admire her, but because she was a thinking person, an intelligent person, an aware person. And her father was a great conservative in broadcasting and news when that was still allowed to some degree or another. I was going to say for the most part, but probably not for the most part. Probably just here and there. Yeah, so that's what I think. And I hadn't, that's the first time I've ever said that out loud. That's good stuff. Yes, sir. All right, now let's go to C. Duff. C. Duff. What would you trust more, the World Health Organization or a cheeseburger cooked by Chuck Schumer? God, that is a conundrum, to be sure. That's the impossible question. You've finally found the unanswerable question. The World Health Organization is not to be trusted at face value by any stretch. It's like Anthony Fauci. See, Anthony Fauci did an interview, and he said, he talks out of both sides of his mouth a lot, that he was for school closures until he wasn't, right? And Anthony Fauci has come out and he said, well, I wasn't for keeping them closed. That was at first, but then not for, you said you were for closing. You never said you were for reopening, but never mind that. And the World Health Organization is much worse than even Anthony Fauci, I think. But the World Health Organization is, United Nations, international and internationalist organization, and they can't be trusted with anything. Did the Wuhan Red Death, COVID-19, come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Let's ask the World Health Organization, where you will never get an answer of any kind, but they'll end up probably calling you names. So the World Health Organization is obviously not to be trusted, at least to be taken at face value. They can sometimes collect data and information internationally in ways that in the United States, the health department or whoever can't collect. So you take their data and you make it a part of the discussion. That's it. But they're corrupt. They are third world, as is the overwhelming majority of organizations that the United Nations runs. And no. And at the same time, the unanswerable question, it has become abundantly clear based on one still photograph that you should never eat any food that is handed to you or provided to you by Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, found in front of his grill with a spatula and an uncooked burger on, and what are there, like 6 uncooked burgers on his grill and a piece of sliced cheese on a burger that's not even cooking. There's no smoke. There's no fire. There's no spark. There's some hot dog looking things over there with fake brown marks on them like they were cooked on the grill, but they're in the wrong place. And it was completely faked. In fact, there are stories now in the news about the staged photo by Chuck Schumer and how there are a lot of very curious things about it. Even the radical left-wing extremists at the Huffington Post. Chuck Schumer accused of staging fake Father's Day photo of himself grilling. So many things wrong with this photo. I like food. I'm really big on food. I try to eat food every day. And this photograph of Chuck Schumer, and he's got the Lizard King look on his face too. And he's at the home of his daughter and his daughter's wife. And, that's perfectly normal. And that terrible, unfunny comedian Amy Schumer is his niece. Stay away from this whole family. But the whole family obviously does not cook anything, or nobody would have posted that photo. It's completely ridiculous. BS photo. It's being shot down all over the place. Putting cheese on a raw burger on an unlit grill next to allegedly fully grilled hot dogs, and holding one uncooked burger on a spatula. Doesn't make it. You don't take a raw burger, put it on a spatula, and then put it on the grill. You have the burgers over, you make them with your hands. They look like pre-made burgers too, which is from China, probably made from slave labor flesh. They just unbelievable stuff. Absolutely embarrassing. So don't touch that. And then talent on loan. Third question. Hey, Chris, great show. I listen to the whole podcast every day. Thank you very much. Coming to D.C. for the 4th of July with my wife, an elderly but surprisingly spry 90-year-old mom. Are there a couple of can't-miss sites and or restaurants? And I'd be honored to buy you a beer if you're in town. I expect to be in town on the 4th of July. I expect to drink beer on the 4th of July. The details we'd have to work out later. Now, look, it's Washington, D.C. The key things, of course, the mall, the monuments. It's the city of monuments, monumental. So you have to go to the Lincoln Memorial. I don't know if 90-year-old mom wants to march up the steps to go read the Gettysburg Address and the wall there. But, of course, you have to do the Lincoln Memorial. You don't have to go up in the Washington Monument, but, you should hover around there. The Jefferson Memorial, of course. The Capitol itself, but, try not to get shot by Officer Lieutenant Byrd there because he's a bad person. So obviously the malls. And are there restaurants? I got to tell you, there are so many good restaurants. There really are so many great. And let me recommend. I'll recommend one location because there are 100 of them. But go to what used to be the Trump Hotel, which is just off the mall, kind of across from the FBI-ish. And it's the Waldorf Hotel now. Used to be the Trump Hotel. And the lobby restaurant there, you can get a burger. Now, I think it's a $30 burger. I think it's a $30 burger. There's the Old Ebbitt Grill on 15th Street, more family friendly. The Old Ebbitt Grill is an easier thing than but if you can go for, a beer, the lobby of the Waldorf Hotel, and you visit it because it used to be the Trump Hotel. So those are, and if not that, then the Old Ebbitt Grill on 15th Street, which is much more friendly. No $30 burgers there. But it's a cool place to visit. The Waldorf Hotel, it was cooler when it was the Trump Hotel. And everybody there was a Trump supporter. No, not as much. It's D.C. A lot of commies and people shooting each other. But I'm sure you'll be fine. This June marks 2 years since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision at the Supreme Court. But we learned that in 2023, we had the highest number of abortions since 2012. So the opposite of what the Democrats said would happen actually happened, as is almost always the case. And, the abortion pill accounts for like 64% of all abortions right now. It's tragic, but it's no surprise. Preborn. Great organization. Preborn continues to stand strong for women in crisis and their at-risk babies. Preborn is a ministry of compassion that showers women and their babies with God's love, providing free ultrasounds to mothers with unplanned pregnancies. When a mother sees her baby in an ultrasound, hears the heartbeat, sees the heartbeat, it usually doubles the chance that the baby will go on to live a long and happy life. And $28 could be the difference between life and death. So please join the fight by sponsoring one ultrasound or two or three or more, whatever you can afford, whatever means you can provide. You can sponsor Preborn's entire network for a full day for $5,000 all across the country for 24 hours. Whatever gift you can give, though, one ultrasound goes a long way, too, towards saving human lives. All gifts are tax deductible, of course. To donate, all you have to do is dial pound 250 on your cell phone, and when prompted, give the keyword baby. That's pound 250 on your cell phone. The keyword is baby, or go online and visit preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/PLANTE. Yes, sir. Yeah, and, I'd be able to, talent on loan. I hope to be able to run into you when you're in town. I can't arrange things like that usually because too far off into the future for me. But, I'm going to say Old Ebbitt Grill. It's close to the White House. All right? You'll like it. I ran out the clock on myself in that segment, and that is a terrible and egregious error on my part. We've still got a whole lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Oh, I tell you. We've got everything here from President Trump to Hanoi Jane Fonda, communists. Amazing stuff. Yes, it is. President Trump was in Racine, Wisconsin yesterday, where he held a gigantic rally of 1.2 billion people. 1.2 billion people gathered in Racine, Wisconsin, and the news media is naturally attacking him. It's pretty amazing. The headlines, CNN, Trump tells Wisconsin voters, quote, "I love Milwaukee," end quote, after his horrible remark, which has been debunked again and again. Another filthy lie by the filthies at CNN. And ABC, Chicago, former President Trump holds rally in Racine days after his alleged Milwaukee diss. They put diss, D-I-S-S, in the headline because it's all part of moving toward a completely illiterate society. The Politico headline, quote, "I love Milwaukee," end quote. End quote. Trump tries to make up with the horrible city, horrible in quotation marks. Now, it's all so completely ridiculous. He explained himself, and he's talking about the crime rate and what the Democrats have done to Milwaukee. And If the Democrats had stopped shooting everybody, every city would be a lot better, wouldn't it? Now, Trump wasn't going to stay in Milwaukee. Then reporters asked the New York Times. See, they started claiming the Republican convention is going to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they claim, the left claims that he called Milwaukee a horrible city. And in fact, he explained himself, and we played it for you here, saying, I didn't call Milwaukee a horrible city. I said it's horrible what has happened to Milwaukee with the Democrats and the crime and the economy and so on. So the New York Times now, Trump wasn't going to stay in Milwaukee. They started another false narrative. He had planned to stay in his own hotel in Chicago. There is a Trump hotel in Chicago, and he does have helicopters and a 757 and things because he's a billionaire. Before members of the media began inquiring, the New York Times types, everything's a smear, except when it comes to Joe Biden, when everything is a tongue bath, because they know Joe Biden is in a constant state of falling down a staircase, whether there's a staircase there or not. So let's go to President Trump soundbite number 16 in Racine, Wisconsin, which is south of Milwaukee and north of Chicago. It's along Lake Michigan and, of course, in the state of Wisconsin, a key swing state, and where the Republicans in Milwaukee are holding their national convention. Aren't they amazing? President Trump in Racine yesterday.
First, he wandered off the G7 in Europe, the stage. He looked like he didn't know where the hell he was, but he didn't know where he was. Now they're saying the media is manipulating. Oh, he's saying the media is manipulating now. On that one, I have to stick up for the media, I have to tell you. He said the media is manipulating the pictures of him constantly not knowing where the hell he is. They're doing just the opposite. They're making him look better.
Boy, are they. And we've got some audio for you on that, your CNN and MSDNC people. President Trump, and again, President Trump doesn't use a teleprompter. He might have a note somewhere, but you don't see it if he does. And he just riffs, and he can riff for 2 hours. And when Joe Biden comes to the debate where they're allegedly not allowing notes, but they'll probably find a way to cheat, give him an earpiece or something like that, Joe Biden is going to be at a loss. And if Joe Biden is a disaster in the upcoming presidential debate, which I would expect, and I would like to see President Trump be very low-key, be very, very mild-mannered, and just let Joe Biden. And it's funny, my friend Seton Motley said, not having microphones at the debate, or what they're doing is when Biden's talking, they're going to mute President Trump's microphone. When President Trump is talking, they're going to mute Biden's microphone. But Biden's never going to say anything during the breaks. He doesn't know where he is. But Seton suggested it might be to Trump's advantage to have his mic muted while Joe Biden is talking. Don't interrupt Joe Biden, because Joe Biden will provide gaffes that will be the memorable moments from the debate. If you just let him be Joe Biden, then the gaffes will come. Don't interfere. It's, the old, whoever it was, Sun Tzu, or, when your enemy is destroying himself, do not interfere. And there may be some merit to that in the case of the Trump-Biden debate upcoming next Thursday. Honestly, President Trump, if I were working with him on prepping for the debate, I think I might say just let Joe Biden talk as much as possible. Because Trump's going to have to fend off the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune coming from Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. And his focus should be on just changing the subject and talking about what you want to talk about and making your policy approach clear. And when Joe Biden's talking, just let him talk, because that's the worst part of the night for Joe Biden, when he's talking. So let him talk. And a good point, I think, by Seton Motley. President Trump talking about Joe Biden, and the media is trying to make him look bad, the opposite of the truth, with videos, by editing the videos. The White House edited the video, and the internet edits everything, but never mind that. Nobody is editing the videos to make him look bad. You show the videos to make him look bad. President Trump in Racine.
He froze during the celebration on the White House lawn. Then Barack Hussein Obama had to grab his hand and lead him off the stage as though he were a child. I have to tell you, Obama could have handled that differently. He could have done it a little bit softer. He could have done it like, let's go. Come. He didn't have to grab him and pull him off the stage, but but he looked good, and I guess that was his primary purpose. He wanted to look good.
Yeah, Obama wanted to look good, and that's true. My best girl suggested, well, the way Obama kind of grabbed Joe and walked him out like he is incapable of walking by himself, which he essentially is, made Biden look bad. And was Obama deliberately making Biden look bad? He doesn't like Joe Biden. He never liked Joe Biden. All the reports from the inside are that he never liked Joe Biden. And the famous quote is, never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to beep things up, right? So he has a low opinion of Joe Biden, but they put him in there as their sock puppet so that he could, and we played the audio yesterday or day before yesterday of Barack Obama saying if he could have a third term where he didn't have to live in the White House and he could just phone it in, he'd like that. And that's what's going on now. That's why the murders and the rapes of little girls in parks and the murders of mothers of 5 in Maryland, and because Barack Obama is fundamentally transforming the United States of America. That's what's going on here. But President Trump talked about Joe Biden freezing up with the tranny next to him and George Floyd's brother flanking him on the other side. This party is just mentally insane. They're just completely nuts. At the Juneteenth, which is the anniversary in which the Democrats lost their last slaves. They didn't want to, but they did. Just amazing stuff. And the media lying to us about all of these, these videos being altered. They're not. They lie. But the media, I've got some media lies too.
Crooked Joe and his handlers are insisting he's sharper than ever. And they say the videos of Crooked Joe shuffling around are clean fakes. You know what a clean fake is? They're deceptively edited. They say they're deceptively edited. All of the mistakes that he's made every day. He can't go anywhere without a mistake. Now, if I'm perfect, they say he made a mistake. Perfect. And I don't say clean fakes, although they do. They do that. They do that. They're the fake news. Look how many you have out there.
Now, President Trump used clean fake. Actually, the White House invented the term cheap fake, which is a butchery of deep fake. And it's all about the manipulation of language, as, their boy Noam Chomsky would have them manipulating the public opinion by manipulating the language. Absolutely extraordinary times we are in, are we not? Now, let's go to just one example, a classic example of the news media lying and lying and lying about these videos that they say, right-wing media is altering and editing. No, just show the whole thing. And on Newsmax and on Fox News, too, the anchors say, no, we're going to show you the whole video. Here's the whole from beginning to end and unedited, no edits. And then we'll show you what the White House is lying about. It's amazing stuff. The left-wing radical extremist Erin Burnett on CNN. Oh, yeah, she used to be on MSNBC, and she was the one being verbally groped and visually groped by Chris Matthews and so on. And Erin Burnett with the big lie.
The far right used selectively edited video to claim that Biden was wandering off like some dementia patient from other world leaders during the G7. When you extend it a little bit longer and it's unedited, you see a different story. You see that Biden briefly turned away and walked over, not to the middle of nowhere, but to give a thumbs up to several parachutists, so that you actually see them there, along with a parachute rigger who is kneeling on the ground.
Which the other parachutists, which you actually see there, you absolutely do not. There are no other parachutists in the video or in any other video that I've seen or in any still photographs or any satellite photographs that I've seen. That is a complete fabrication. But they literally show you the video and they say, you see the other parachutists over here and there are none. And they must know that their audience does not see the parachutists that Erin Burnett is talking about, because there are none. There were other parachutists, but they're not in the video. They're not where Joe Biden is looking. There is, she says, a rigger, which she kind of mispronounces a little bit. And, you know, there is I described the Italian military person in camouflage with his maroon beret, and he's packing up the parachute, somebody else's parachute, not his own. And if there were other parachutists over there, you do not see them. But she assures you, she's quite insistent that if you just, and she's like, they're showing the video, and the video does not show what she describes. It is one of the most shameless frauds that you're going to find anywhere from the corrupt news media. Absolutely amazing to see. Just extraordinary. You'll see the other parachutists, no, you don't, and nobody does.
When you extend it a little bit longer and it's unedited, you see a different story. You see that Biden briefly turned away and walked over, not to the middle of nowhere, but to give a thumbs up to several parachutists, so that you actually see them there.
And they're showing the video, and you absolutely do not see them, but they tell you that you're seeing things you do not see. And then they tell you that you're not seeing things that you do see, which is Joe Biden wandering off like an idiot. They take things that are true and make them untrue. They take things that are untrue and make them true. And it is just that one from Erin Burnett. Well, she needs psychological help after that one. I mean, that is, if I were a family member, I'd call mom and say, I think Erin is having a stroke or something. She's having a meltdown. She's saying that she's seeing things on video that are not there and that we should all see them too. That was demented. It really was. Dr. Demento. And then also on MSDNC, the madness, the opposite of the truth, Nicole Wallace. That poor Joe Biden just doesn't get a fair shake from that media that is so tough and so hard on Joe Biden.
There's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media, broadcast, print, and social media. It is to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden directly from Republican National Committee social media accounts and then use those videos to spread messages virally to cast doubt on President Biden's fitness for office.
Yeah, that awful media, that right-wing media, that's everywhere. Now, you guys really have mental problems. You honestly do. It's not edited video. It may be somewhere on the internet, of course. There's an edited version. Who cares? But every time I've gone to look for it, I find the full-length version. Every time you see it on Newsmax or on Fox, it's the full-length version. It's not an edited version. And they tell you that you're seeing skydivers where there are none. And they are telling you that you're not seeing Joe Biden wander off when you are seeing Joe Biden wander off. It is a lie so big, so spectacular. And cringe on Pierre went on Nicole Wallace's show on MSDNC, and they make things up, and they come out and they say them, and they know that these things are not true, and they become angry when people don't believe the lie.
I think there is so much misinformation, disinformation, as we've been talking about. You talked about the video of the president wandering, and it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering. He was talking to a parachuter that was right in front of him. And what you saw is the Republican Party really manipulating what was being said and what was being seen by the American people. That's also very insulting to the folks the viewers who are watching it. And so we believe we have to call that out.
Just amazing. So we have to call it out. And the news media sits there nodding in agreement. It's crazy.
I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video, these deep fakes, these manipulated videos. And it is, again, done in bad faith.
A lie so big that Joseph Goebbels is laughing from hell. These people are the biggest liars. I'd like to hope, well, at least in Western civilization and politics today, No, you're not. Here's the videotape. Watch. It's very easy. Watch the video. There are no other skydivers over there. Joe Biden does wander off, and they tell you he doesn't wander off, and there are skydivers over there. Right there in the video, they say. No. No. No.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Gurgle?
Now, the apocalyptic death cult of the millionaire commie left, represented by Jane Fonda in this case, her wonderful father, so ashamed of his commie, expletive-deleted daughter. She was on CNN last night with Wolf Blitzer, and Wolf had Hanoi Jane at the White House Correspondents' Dinner also as a guest. Hanoi Jane on with Wolf Blitzer last night on It's the End of the World as We Know It if Joe Biden, who's brain dead, doesn't win.
The elections in November are existential, really. Who wins in November is going to determine whether we have a livable future. It's as simple as that. And there's a very stark choice.
It's existential. It's is there a future? Is there no future? God, I hope Trump wins. And I'm hoping for like a mass Jonestown or like a Masada thing. They find a big cliff to all throw themselves off of. Wolf Blitzer and Hanoi Jane.
The president's age and fitness is a key issue in this campaign. It keeps coming up. Why do you think voters should see it as an asset for the president?
It's an asset.
I'm older than he is, and I'm all for age. I can tell you that you do get wiser, and you do learn things. You learn from your mistakes.
You've had an awful lot of those. Hanoi Jane, absolutely. I don't think she likes Trump.
One other thing, if the orange man wins next November, it's going to be much worse for Palestinians. I can say that.
Jane Fonda, thank you so much for joining us.
The poor terrorists. What are we going to do for the terrorists? You remember, she loved COVID, too. She was very much in favor of COVID. She thought it was great.
COVID is God's gift to the left.
Yes. Yeah, I can't even get to her advocating murdering the Supreme Court when she was on The View. Maybe another time. The Democrat Party is very unwell. God save us all.